What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be making a video on how to improve your resume for your job applications to companies like Google and Amazon. This was a question I got a few months back, and I'm very sorry it's taken me so long to get to it, but it's super important. I spent a lot of my weekends reviewing a lot of resumes for college or early career folks who are breaking into product management, and I want to just basically summarize a lot of the tips I give and also walk you through a template that I share with a lot of people that is based on the resume I used when I was applying to Google about a year and a half ago. So I'm going to walk you through each section, give you some tips, what I would do to improve the sections. And if you have a question, just drop it in the comment. Hopefully this is helpful. Make sure to subscribe for future videos on product management, breaking into tech, or anything related to that. Let's jump in. The first thing I look at when I'm reviewing a resume is the very top of the page, which is the header. So as long as you have a good header with your name, first and last, maybe your address. If you don't want to give out a specific address, it could just be a city and state or country you reside in. Then I would definitely include email address, phone number, and then a link to your LinkedIn page, making sure that that is hyperlinked. So then a lot of recruiters, and when I look at resumes, I go straight to the top left section, which is usually your education. If you're maybe less than 5 years of work experience, I think it makes sense to just have your education there. And if you have a lot more experience, then you probably want to jump straight into the professional experiences section. So in this template, you can see that I share my college name, my major. Then in the top right corner, you have the city, state, and country. So something that's really important about this template is it is very clear where the division of the different sections are. It's a single column as opposed to having multiple columns. I think those resumes are a little bit harder to follow. For the reader, it's very difficult to know if they should be looking left, right. Here it's very clear. They start at the top and just go straight down. So that is the advantage of having this type of template. And you can see the details really matter. Things such as what do you capitalize, putting everything in all caps for the headers like education, professional experience. Some people write this as just experience, and that's vague. So just be very specific. You actually write professional experience to make it clear. And then where you have your company name as opposed to where you have the city, state, and then where you have the dates. All of that really matters, and having this template, it's really easy for the reader to know where each of those items are, as opposed to making them cluttered or all in one single line. So visually, I think following the structure is super recommended from my side of things. And then as you can see, there's also a leadership skills and interest section, where here you could include a lot of things such as like organizations you led on campus or outside of school. It could be a startup that you're building on the side or a project, things like that. And then the interest section is, what are your skills and passions? I think this is also important. So that is the basic layout. There's a disclaimer here at the bottom that basically says, do not copy or reproduce the resume just as it is. This is just a template, and the numbers are sort of the metrics I provide here are examples. So make sure you actually think about your personal experience and build your resume based off that. Now that we've walked through the template, let's actually go into each section. So the education part, I think this is the most straightforward section. The one section I provide a lot of feedback on in the education section is probably the relevant courses. So here you want to just think about the classes you took that are actually applicable to the role you're applying. Let's say you're applying to product management, being analytical, being technical, and then having some more management skills. Those are all important. Even if you have like marketing skills or courses you've taken that are related to like go-to-market strategy, that would be relevant. So being selective there is good. And then if you've taken classes, even if they're not graded, that are relevant to the industry, let's say you're applying to a Google Cloud or cloud provider, then you probably want to maybe sit in on a class on cloud computing or something like that, or AI. And even if you haven't completed a course, I think just including those kind of courses is relevant. Make sure you actually are interested about the industry you're applying to and have like the basic knowledge of what that is. So the next bit is the company name and the role. So in the professional experience, you'll have your company name, you have a Job title. The job titles, I think a lot of people have some debates on if they should just put the job title their company gives them, or if they should be more creative. I lean more towards to, really be honest about the role you have. I think where you can show your ability to, let's say, pivot into a new role, if you're coming from, for example, product marketing and you want to move into product management, is an actual experience of bullets. So that's one tip. And then the next bit is the bullet points. So the general template that I follow is Google's XYZ template for bullet points on your job experiences. So that basically means X is what did you do, Y is how did you accomplish it, Z is what was the result. Sometimes the Y and the Z are flipped, so it would be what did you do, what was the result or metric, and then how did you accomplish it. So I prefer the first, where it's a very clear thought process of what you did, how you accomplished it, and then the result or metric. I think that tells a very smooth story with the result or impact at the very end. Like you would answer an interview question, tell me about a time you did X. You would probably put the metric at the end or the results at the end to show impact. So it sort of follows a similar framework. So if you use that, what did you do? What did you do? How did you do it? And what was the result? That framework could just be applied to each bullet. And so that's what we're doing here in the very first one. So you're saying you led some product which has this massive scope. So you're leading these specific tasks for this product. And then how did you do that? You created a list of assets, and it could be blogs, webinar content, etc. And that generated some result, and that also helped improve maybe some business metric overall. And that could be, in the case of product marketing, maybe you created a collateral that led to marketing qualified leads, and then that resulted in some kind of growth in the sales pipeline. So the other bit is being very specific about the metric you provide. It should be time framed, meaning you say 10% growth. You don't leave it at that. You say that was month over month, or it could be over 6 months, whatever it might be. The more specific you are, one, the more credible the numbers are, and two, it provides a more clear understanding of the impact you had. In this section, we say you launched a specific product at a conference or event. And how did you do this? You defined the pricing, positioning, go-to-market strategy, and you also created and launched, documents, which could be a product requirement document, and collaborated with engineering, UX. And this also means that you led VP level leadership reviews to get that approved. So this is all really good. And what I would add here is probably the metric or result of that launch. These bullet points, of course, are vague. They're not really going into the details because they're templates, but you definitely want to fill in the stories for someone who might not have any context about your role or your company, specifically, that you provide clear terminology that everyone generally will understand. And then this bullet here is single technical product lead for X product. You managed UX and engineering relationships to launch new feature, improved product launch velocity by 2x via strong cross-team alignment weekly reviews. So here you're saying what you did launching this product, how you did it in managing UX and engineering relationships to launch that product, and then the result was that you actually improved product launch velocity. So a lot of times you get questions on, hey, I did this job or internship, but I didn't have the data to actually report. I think in those cases, obviously you want to be honest. You do not want to report information that's inaccurate. You should think about the work you did and ask yourself, if I was not in that internship, if I did not do this, what would the status quo be? Like, what would the customer experience be, or the internal operations look like? So that can also help you think about maybe how you improved operations or how you cut down the time for development. And that just means you have to maybe look into other ways to show impact. If you can, when you're in your internship, I would definitely take projects that you know you can measure the results of. So when you're interviewing for teams for internships and jobs, um, it's important to ask those questions like, how do you measure impact or success in this role? Because when it comes to highlighting that on your resume in the future, you definitely want that data point. So that's one thing you can prepare before you actually take on a role. And when you're in the role, definitely build out data tools, work with data analyst teams to actually pull in those numbers and make sure you measure success. And then the last bit is if you've already moved on from the role and you don't have the data, think about some of the less specific metrics that are maybe time based, right? Like in this case, I'm talking about our product team. It used to take us a month to launch a feature, but we were able to do it in 2 weeks because I was able to set up regular meetings, create a really clear product requirement document, and sort of project manage the initiative and get it moving forward. So that's another way to show impact without having specific data points that you can pull from a dashboard. Okay, so those are the bullet points and some of the examples. I think you generally get the idea of what you should be doing and following. I'll go to the leadership section. Here you can talk about maybe an organization you led, if you're on the board of some club on campus, really anything you're passionate about, any organization you lead in school or out of school. And you want to show, one, that you have interests just beyond your job, beyond your 9 to 5, and two, that you actually have impact in these organizations. When you do something, you actually drive results. I talked about, being a leader on a club in my university, and the specific bullet point was probably around, the events like career development events that I helped, launch and recruit speakers to come to and have hundreds of attendees from the school. So that's the kind of example you have to show. It's really cool to see that someone has taken on a leadership role in things that they're just really interested in or communities they care about. And then the last bit is the skills section. Here's where you get to list off the tools that you use every day. It could be UX design tools like Figma. It could be Metabase for data analytics, Asana for product management, pretty much anything that you're familiar with, even programming languages if you have that. Now there's a lot of AI coding tools. So if you're using those tools as well, now it's the time to add those in. And then the last bit is passions. So passion section is where you get to be creative and show really who you are, beyond work, beyond leadership. What do you do on the weekend? So this could be hobbies, sports. It could be your favorite cuisines, things like things that you like to do, places that you like to travel. And I think this will help maybe catch the eyes of some recruiters or some hiring managers who during your interview might want to just ask you about something interesting that's on your resume. So I think that's sort of a cheat code I like to recommend. Cool. So that is the whole resume and some of the tips that I provide. Generally, the big things are, one, you want to follow a very clear template that is easy to read. Two, you want to make sure you use the XYZ framework for a lot of your bullets. What did you do? How did you accomplish it? And then what was the result? And remember, the how you accomplish it could be setting up meetings. It could be writing a product requirement document. It could be aligning different stakeholders. And it's really the operations and day-to-day of the actual job. And the result is the metric that is very specific, time-framed, and really clear. The other quick tip on the metric section is make sure it actually connects to what you did. Meaning you should ask, does this metric clearly connect to the improvements I made in my work? So that could mean, let's say you improve the copy of a web page because you want, qualified leads to come to it, have the web page resonate with them, and then they're going to click learn more or they're going to click sign up. So the metric you should highlight there is definitely improvement in conversion rate, right? So it should be maybe there's a 10% conversion rate improvement over a month or 2 months, whatever it might be. So just be very clear that you track the metrics that you're talking about clearly and directly connect to the action you take. In the example of the web page improvements, you would not want to say revenue increased by 30%. Improving a website and improving the copy, the design, and making it just an amazing web page for people to come to is very, very disconnected from the ultimate revenue that you might see in the business. Of course, there's a lot of threads that connect that. And so it's less credible for someone reading that bullet point to believe that your actions directly impacted that. So try to find data points that are clearly connected to the actions that you're taking. So that's a pro tip. All right, so I covered those things. The last bit beyond the template, the framework for each bullet point, and the tips I gave specifically is that keep it to one page. I should have said this in the very beginning, but if you are definitely under 5 years of work experience, you should definitely have a one-pager. Even beyond that, I think people who have up to 10 years of experience, a lot of the best resumes I've seen are a single page and concise and explain things in a very clear way that's really easy to follow. So that's my big recommendation. The more precise you are, recruiters on average have maybe 5 to 10 seconds to read through a resume and quickly understand who this person is and are they a good fit. So those are all really important things. The other tip you hear all the time is, tailor your resume to the job. That's really important because when you look at a job description, you'll get a sense of the responsibilities and what are they looking for. So one of the key terms in the language they use in the job description, you should definitely look at those and make sure you speak in that language in your resume, because you most likely have the experience, but you have to speak in the way that the recruiter is going to understand and resonate with them and say, hey, this is actually what we are looking for. So make sure you look at that job description and do not just take that, put it in ChatGPT, and then tell it to print out a resume for you. That doesn't work. You need to actually go through each line, review it in detail, and make sure it's a very clear story. It's not too generic. It's very specific to you and your experience. And those things will go a very long way to make sure your resume is actually going to stand out. Okay, so hopefully this helped you get a general idea of what a good resume looks like. Of course, I gave a lot of different types of bullet points here, and I gave you frameworks. Whatever works for you, make sure you take the learnings from this and apply it to your own resume. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comment and let me know if there's other videos you would like. All right, good luck applying out there and see you in the next video.